It is both an honor for me and a delight to welcome you to this randomized control RCT forum, which is a culmination of months of hard work and sacrifice. We aim to present the findings of the baseline study that we have been doing, which took place in various parts of this county. Your Excellency, allow me to say that the women in our county and in our country have been very pivotal drivers of economic growth, innovation, and sustainability. There would be more contributions, and their contributions span from both formal and informal sectors, often overcoming systemic barriers to deliver results in every part of our economy. Despite the turbulent changes that are fed by market dynamics, women's roles in our lives are irreplaceable. They are the engine of development, prepared by years of observing, nurturing, learning, adapting for such a time as this, when their participation in society continues to mold our future. As we celebrate each and every institution that has taken part in this RCT, we need to remember that we are here because of the child and to impact the skills that are noble and that are adaptive in this day and age. Your Excellency, we know you're very passionate about children, and we cannot ignore the contribution that you have had enormously in making sure that our children are comfortable from the infrastructural input that you have always had on our ECD. We really appreciate. And also on our vocational training centers now that we are talking about CBC. Your diverse perspectives today as the stakeholders and expertise are the cornerstone of this gathering, providing your insights and how best to interpret the results of this study. This forum also plays a crucial role in promoting open dialogue, healthy curiosity, exchange of knowledge, from which we can learn and identify more areas we can collaborate now and in the future. And once again, I want to thank you for joining us here today. Let's embark on this forum to connect and grow together. And without further ado, I wish to welcome you all to Tharaka, Nithi County, the land of diversity and abundance and abundance, diversity, and value addition. Karibuni sana.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want also to take this opportunity to welcome you all to this forum. Before I make my few remarks, I want first of all to take this opportunity to recognize a few people in the ground. The first group of people are the Kenyatta University Women Economic Empowerment Advisory Board. Can you just stand up and wave? If you are a member of the Kenyatta University Advisory Board. Yeah, that is Professor Caroline Torowa, Dr. Watane, and Engineer Kimati. Thank you for being around. I want also to thank to recognize the Kenyatta University staff. If you are from Kenyatta University, please stand up and wave. Thank you. My governor, that is the staff from KU, and this staff is composed of staff for the KU we have, and it is also composed of the RCT researchers. And maybe the RCT researchers come and parade yourself here. The researchers, they are including Wasiri, Naivasha, she's a co-peer. Just come here. Yeah, so let them just introduce themselves, just their names, and the part they play in the experiment.
Professor Simon Onywere, I'm the principal investigator in the project. Thank you.
My name is Samson John Oteo, in charge of measurement, the co-PI measurement.
And again, I'm Madam Dorothy Naivasha. I am the co-principal investigator assisting Professor Onywere.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Teresa Moma. I'm a co-PI in charge of curriculum intervention. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Esther Ashara in the assessment team.
Dr. Hudson Ouko, early child specialist in the intervention.
Good afternoon. Dr. Eunice and Jerry, a child specialist in the psychology department. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Dr. Margaret Wanjiru Mwangi, a specialist in early childhood development. I'm in the intervention team. Thank you.
Your Excellency, this is the team that actually has been running the implementation with support of the teachers, the RCT supervisors, there's Jacqueline and Brian. Where's Jacqueline? Come. Brian also come. Yeah, so these two, they would need to introduce themselves and they tell us the role they play, but they're very instrumental because for us, we are in Nairobi and these are people on the ground. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Jacqueline Kanana, measurement lead in RCT.
Good morning. I am Brian Mureti, the intervention supervisor.
Thank you very much. Now let me make my remarks, a few remarks because of time. First of all, I want to say that this project on what works to improve women economic empowerment in Kenya was started in 2020 and is a 5-year project funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They have changed the name now, it's the Gates Foundation. This project had 3 themes. The first theme is women's role in the public and private sector. In this theme, we had 5 projects, almost similar that we are running here. We had 5 projects. The second area is skilling and mentoring. In the skilling and mentoring, we had 3 projects. And in the third area, thematic area, we had violence, crisis, and women's work. In this thematic area, we have 6 projects. One of them, which is just the RCT. So in total, Kenyatta University Women Economic Empowerment is running 14 projects of similar nature. So the approach was to do evaluative research on programs, come up with the gender disaggregated data, develop policy briefs, and then work with the policymakers for uptake of these policies. That is the approach of all 14 projects. For this RCT, we had to get the information from the livelihood. We also anchored the livelihood project in Tharaka, Nithi. So in essence, in Tharaka, Nithi, we have 2 projects which are anchored here. The livelihood project headed by Wakili Lillian Kerucha. I don't know whether she's here. And then this RCT. Yeah, so the randomized controls trial is an experiment that touches on women economic empowerment and children's development. So in essence, we have 2 components. We have the women's component and we have the children's development component. And that's why you saw the researchers here. Some are in childhood intervention or curriculum intervention, others are on the measurements. The psychology ones are in the measurements. So the 2 components are the ones who constitute what we have been running. The backbone of this program is your baby, the creative program. Actually, for us in 2019, when we were writing the proposal, that was actually his idea that actually we borrowed from. So as we are implementing this program, we wanted actually to run or to build creative programs all over Tharaka Nithi. But because of the expenses, we could not be able to expound the creative program that's in Chuka Market to all the community. So we actually explored what is the best approach to be able to remove children from the mothers, to enable mothers to engage in economic activities. So the idea came up and we said, why don't we explore schools? To do that, we had to get permission from the Ministry of Education to allow us to anchor this program within the school system. I want to thank the governor for actually being able to let us work within the county and a very productive team. The team headed by Dorothy Naivasha has been very instrumental. We have worked collaboratively from the very beginning of the design, the implementation, and as we go forward, it has been a smooth running team. So I want just to thank the governor for that team. I want also to say that the county government also has been very instrumental in having a policy for us to anchor also the children, the 3-year-old in schools. Again, through the legislation from the county, we're able to do that. I also want to thank the county for allowing the public service board to help us in the recruitment. Many of you teachers, you remember, we had about 1,300 applicants for ECD teachers. So the board actually helped us in conducting those interviews, and we are very grateful. Without them, we would not be where we are now. So the RCT, we started it in 2027. We wanted to start in 2023, but because of the school year, the COVID, and the interruption of the school year, we couldn't start it earlier. So we decided to start it last year, 2024. 2024, we decided to bring in the first cohort of 3-year-old. And this year, we decided also to bring in another cohort. So in essence, we have the 2 cohorts, 2024 and 2025. I want just to acknowledge Your Excellency for your assistance in giving us material to buy material for learning for PP2, because we realized that the PP1, they have been exposed to all this material you have seen in the exhibition, but when they moved to PP2, there was nothing. I want just to extend my appreciation for your offer to help us get material, learning material for the PP2. Yeah, so what was the objective of the RCT? The objective was to test how early childhood enrollment of our 3-year-old children in PP1 will enable mothers to engage in economic activities. That was objective number 1. And as I said earlier, even the other 13 projects, they hang on women economic empowerment. The second objective was to understand how an enriched curriculum could promote holistic development of the child and improve school readiness. As we prepare these children, what we want to see, will they be ready for grade 1 intake? And this program just does that. I want to also say that this RCT has 3 phases. The first phase is what we call baseline. So we took some statistics on where are the children and the women and the fathers at the very beginning. Yeah, at the beginning of 2024, before we roll out the program. Then the second phase is the midline, which we took some statistics last year, November, December, to see now the impact. What has this program done on these children and the women? And the last phase is what we call endline. This one we plan to run again another assessment end of this year to see where children will be and the mother also will be at that particular time. So for today's forum, the purpose for us here, being here, is first of all to share the baseline data on women economic participation and children's developmental milestones. Number 2 is to hear voices from the people implementing this program. We have the ECD teachers, we have the head teachers in which this ECD is anchored. So let me stop here and say thank you for listening.
I stand here very proud but also disadvantaged because a very good program has taken place, and therefore everybody who has spoken to the program, I run a risk of repeating the same if I read my speech, and therefore request that I don't read the speech but just maybe give a narrative of how we happen to be here and how grateful we are as a county to be in this program. When we were campaigning in 2017, we were visiting different sectors in the working population of Tharaka, from farmers to traders to boda to the guys who do matatus, the tea farmers, and even the markets. So when we got to Chuka town and I visited the market, just like I visited other markets like Kodima, I'd also gone to Kanoa. There were very few issues that were not cutting across. Most people talked about the state of their markets because they did not have standards. One market could be raining, another one could be having a hard pavement, others could be just matope. But there was one factor that was unifying almost all the traders, and that was the issue of separating the young ones from their mothers in trade. And as you know, most of the farmers were in those, not farmers but traders, most of our women who are in those informal sectors, they do not have a permanent location where they put their wares when they sell. And therefore, if you disappear from your workplace or station for about a week or two, you will find someone else there. And maybe you have picked a very good location. So what was very eye-catching and of course something to sympathize with was mothers who had brought their children to work, and the environment we were working in was the kind of environment you wouldn't want to bring a child. But because of lack of choice, they had no other alternative but to juggle the two. So you'll find a young one of about 2 or 3 years stuck on top of a sack of potatoes so that they can have a high vantage, the mother can be able to see them when they are dealing with the potatoes. There was another one put on the cabbage. There's another one who is put on top of a gunia where they are selling cereals, and this was repeated all over. And when we asked them, one common issue was they cannot afford to hire house help with the meager earning they were having. So they didn't have a choice but to bring their children to school. So that brought a factor of affordability. And at the same time, they said if they took the maternity leave that educated people, or rather people who are informal, not educated, sorry, but people who are in formal employment do, which is about 6 months, when they come back, they'll have lost their customers and they'll have lost their position where they trade. So they were in a catch-22 position and they had no choice but to do what they were doing. The second factor was, of course, the issue of the hygiene of where those children were being kept. And the fact that the men did not want to play any role in ensuring that also they take care of the child. So we agreed that when we form government, we will sort them out in terms of where to play the child. And I want to tell you, that time I didn't have an idea of how to do it. Completely, I was kaput. However, after we formed government and we sat down and we were looking at the pledges that we had made to the people, which we call the matrix for campaigners or for people who go on top of the roof of vehicles, whatever is written, we go back to the boardroom and analyze what can be a defended lie and what can be realized. Because some of the things you have no choice, but you cross the bridge, you say, I'll cross the bridge when I get there. So because I had people in my team who had an idea, we agreed we can form some form of nursery, which is called a creche. And the first time it was built, those who were not aware, it was wrongly done and we had to bring it down. They had used masonry walls, concrete, because what they had in mind was protection, safety of the children. And to make sure that when the child is brought there, they cannot get out, and therefore even if you're looking for somebody's child, you can't see them. And I told them this was going to be a depression prison, because when you put them in between a concrete wall where they cannot see outside, even the mothers out there are not comfortable because they can't see their children. So we designed it again and we came up with what you saw here, which is full clear glass, where you can be able to see your child wherever you are. If you are doing your potatoes, if you turn right, you can see your child where they are. And even the child, if possible, can be able to see the mother, and all of them get comfortable. The second issue is about the breastfeeding mothers. or the lactating mothers who want to come in and breastfeed their children, because we did not have the age limit of what age you can bring there. And we had to get a room which was one-way glass, because again, when you put a mother in a cubicle that is completely blocked, I was going to use the word opaque, but I'm not very sure that opaque means the same thing as non-translucent, that you can't be able to see through. I was told there is a possibility the mother will not be motivated enough to produce milk. Because while they're there, they are thinking about their wares they have left out there. And where somebody could be stealing it, or there could be a customer who's waiting to be served and she can't see. So we had to make one-way glass so that you cannot see the mother when she's breastfeeding, but she can be able to see her wares, where she left them when she went to breastfeed. And that was done. Then there was the issue of these children sometimes want to rest after they have played. So we needed to have a place where they can take siesta or at least sleep. So we get a separate room again where we have comfortable mattresses where they can take their time in turns to take a break and nap, so that at the end of the day, the mother can take a child who is well rested. We also had the issue of water to bring there. Then we had a very complicated issue about the sanitation, of how do these children take care of, where do they actually take care of their needs. And I think of late we have worked on that. It's been a very big problem, because where the creche is located is disadvantaged by where we can be able to drain the waste, because the ablution block is on the upper side, unless we raise it. But I think we have come up with a solution. We recently gave instructions to Engineer Getty to do a biodigester in the middle of the market and take care of that problem. Once we have a creche that is working 100%, of course the CCTV was mentioned because we do not want cases where somebody says I brought a child, the records are showing the child maybe was brought and they are not available. We need a real-time CCTV to show what is happening, and that CCTV is not only just able to be monitored there, it is also live on the handset of a director back in the county. They can be able to see what is happening in the market while in the office, so that even the caregivers and the children can know there is somebody else who is watching. And that is what gave birth to what has brought us here today. It was recognized somewhere out there in the world. It was recognized by Kenyatta University, it was recognized by Gates Foundation, that time it had a different name, and very many others, including Yale University. And a lot of journals has been done about it. And by the way, recently, as late as 2 years ago, I was nominated to go speak in a forum called Urban Cities Forum that was in China, in Guangzhou. To go speak on this program, I think Professor Judy, you gave us a representative from Kenyatta University, we went together. We were about to be #1, but we were beaten by the mayor of Bogota City. Bogota is in Colombia. She had a program which was more or less the same hours, but about women, so we were #2. But however, we gave the presentation, and it is definitely beneficial to the world. It was a very unique concept. What is the future of this? Definitely the future of this, and you may check this with the ministry at the moment. It has become a policy, even in the Ministry of Housing, who are responsible for doing all the markets they're doing in Kenya at the moment, headed by the PS Hinga. There is no market design in Kenya at the moment without a creche, including the modern one that is being done in Chuka at the moment, and each one of them that is being done all over the country by the current regime of Kenya Kwanza. It has to have a creche. And that is because of that concept that we got definitely by just listening to people and hoping that it can pass, but realize it was doable. And it's a very good big lesson to us. Secondly, we were of the idea when Kenyatta University came to us that we want to be sponsored to roll out this crash program everywhere in Tharaka County. And then they came back and asked us, to all the mamas who need their children to be taken care of, work in the market? Definitely not. It was just a small fraction. So they needed to go where the children are. And where are the children? Every child goes to an ECD class or they go to a school. And that is how the idea of the 3-year-old being taken to school came up. And I'm happy that today, without using those very many technical words on where we are at, we are happy that things are happening in 60 schools in Tharaka out of the 454. That tells you that we have a big job ahead of us, that if we are to roll out what is working in 60 schools in 454, we need not just determination, we need prayers, we need resources, we need determination and beyond. Yeah? You can imagine we are talking about the budget we had to employ those 60 with their mentors. But since the experiment will be over, or the research will be over, now we'll be talking about concrete results. And therefore we'll be talking about implementation. We need to sit down with our people and agree on putting our priorities right. Because the biggest problem in Kenya is funding for the voiceless departments. The departments that are funded in all governments of Kenya are the ones that speak for themselves. The voiceless ones hardly get any attention. You want to know the voiceless ones? The very loud ones are the doctors and the medics. They will go on the streets and they do maandamano and they will get their pay rise. And those ones, every year, they get a pay rise. The teachers, they're here. Once the Secretary General says we need our rights, they go to the street, they'll get their rights. Recently, when we were going to defend our budget, we were told we do not have money as a treasury. Because priority number 1 is to pay the debt, the external debt, and priority number 2 is to pay the commitment we made with the doctors and the teachers. So the rest of the departments are voiceless. And the worst of all is our children. That is why capitation for our schools is always late. You open school in January and you get capitation almost in May. We are aware of that. Those head teachers who are, how many teachers are in the house? Please, head teachers, do you get your capitation in January? No. You cannot get, because the children who benefit from the capitation are voiceless. They have no space to go do maandamano. Nobody knows them. And therefore, as leaders, it is our responsibility to take care of those voiceless people who matter so much in the world. And one day, you are one of them. Now you have a voice, but you used to have to be voiceless. But you've gotten to where you are because somebody else took care of that. I want to thank KU, because this journey was work we have worked has saved us a lot of struggle. It was not going to be easy putting those crash in the market. Even the one we put in Chuka market, if you think it was easy, I will tell you just a quarter of the story. As much as we agreed with them that we'll do a crash when we start working, when we go to implementation, they said no. You cannot take away 20 meters by 10 meters in our market that would serve another 10 traders who will earn a living to do some funny thing there for children. We are okay. And it became a big problem. I remember, out of all the activities that usually take place in this county, I usually don't take part in public participation, hardly. It is done either by MCAs or my CECs. That one, I had to do the public participation myself. We called the mothers very early in the morning. I made for them a cup of tea and we had a conversation, personally, somewhere. Most of the mothers who were in that market beyond the age of children bearing. And they could not see the reason why. You're going to build that thing there and take away trading places. We tried to convince them one day, your daughter will leave you with a child and you don't know where to take it. We had to reorganize the whole market, courtesy of that crash. And if you go to that Chuka market today, it's not the same as it was. They have paddocks where they trade. They have platforms where they put their things so that we can be able to get more space. So we ended up spending more on the market than the crash itself to buy the idea of being allowed to do the crash. So, Professor Judy, I did not have the energy to go through that in all the other 45 markets in Brakanini. It was not going to be easy. It would have costed us much more to reorganize them, to allow us to do the crash. So you saved us by taking the crash to where everybody is, which is in school. And I want to thank you very much. And I'm telling those who are wondering, why did you do a crash in Chuka if not done in those other markets? It's not necessary. Because the one of the school is even more effective than the one for the market. And you've really saved us, and that is the route to go. And today, some of those mothers, I meet them and I ask them, is it assisting you? Some of them give you life stories. This child is not my child. She was left here by my daughter. This one was left by my aunt. And in fact, very interesting. When we started it, one of the persons who brought a child there, and I always say this, but I protect their name. There used to be a magistrate in Chuka Law Courts, who is a lady. She used to bring a child there. Can you tell a magistrate that this is only meant for mothers who are in the market? He will be jailed the following day. So you have to take the child. And a few others also who are not in the conventional market. So that crash is not only people who are trading. We have people who usually bring their children there, despite the fact that maybe they are not trading in the market. I want to thank the County of Tharaka, the County Assembly. Those who are not aware, we have a law in place, which is the Child Care and Protection Act. It's not a bill anymore. I signed it into law, and that is what we use. It is a tool that we'll be able to use for us to implement and roll out the program to be rolled in the whole county. And if it works, I am very sure, and I was hoping Barry was here, but the representative is here. If this works in Tharaka, you have no reason not to take it to 47 counties. Because it's really a game changer. It's a phenomenon that what the mothers can be able to do when their children are out there, they are learning. I watched the caregivers do their skate today, even when I talked to them in the morning and I saw the materials that we had provided. Really, it is game changing. It is life changing because we have reinvented how CBC can be implanted as an introduction to schools. Because when a 3-year-old starts CBC early enough, by the time they get to the university, they will be architects, and those are the courses that they will have picked on the way. So what is the way forward? How can we be able to ensure that we stand to be counted after several years? We have to bite the bullet and decide that this one, as invisible as it is, it has to be our legacy project. Remember, it is voiceless. What has a voice in Tharaka is roads. If the MCA stand there, they tell you the roads are so bad. They are so, we need to take all the money to roads. There's even one MC who told me, why don't we just stop building classes? Because every time I go, nobody realizes we are building classes. What they want is a road. But you see, if we took all our money to roads, we'll have fools walking on roads who have no income, who have yeah? We need to also make them, empower them to be able to do the roads one time or another, isn't it? And that is why we need to roll out this program in a way that it will make change in Tharaka. We have a challenge, and I want to thank the program because of employing 60 teachers. We don't call them teachers in Tharaka, we call them caregivers, who are additional to the 454 that we have. But we have slightly more than 454 because we have some who some schools that have 2.
So absorbing him is not a big deal. We can do that. Sustainability is a big problem. And it's sustainability, we have to have a conversation because we have to go back and reorganize our resources. We have to go back and ask ourselves, do we have to continue building classes in schools where there are no children? Because when you tell an MCA, I'm building 5 classes in your ward, and he's the one who is identifying where to be built. When he goes to the schools and find all the schools have ECD class, he'll go back and ask the teacher, do you need an extra ECD class? You think the teacher will say no? Can you say no to an infrastructure from government? No, you will build and it becomes a store. Yeah? Or it becomes a breakaway room for teachers. When that money would have been used to employ an ECD caregiver who will be able to ensure that this program runs successfully. So do we need extra classes, MCAs? We may not be able to need them, but we need an affirmative action for those schools that do not have. Those schools that don't have, we have to give them. But the ones who have, we don't have to have a uniform program for doing ECD classes. So I'm telling you from the word go, I can only see the source of money where we can be able to run this program. Take away all the money that has ECD classes. There's another area we've been struggling. The Constitution is very clear on the role of the county governments in education. It is only in early childhood education and vocational training. However, because of our politics, we have taken our money everywhere where politics demand that we do. You'll find county government building a staff room in a primary school. I personally have built classes, 8 of them in a school, because I promised during campaign. This Mudomo I have to zip it during campaign. And I am telling you, you have to do that. You have to look for another getting growth. Otherwise, we need to be funding the wrong priorities. Bursaries that we talk about, we hardly have enough to give. Even you look at what the member of parliament give and what the ministry give, ours is a drop of water in the ocean. And in fact, in most cases, because of our competitive nature of our politics, we do not compare notes of having a synergized list of how we give the bursaries. You'll find that the same child that you've given bursary is the same one that the MP has given. It's the same one that the minister has given, because there was no meeting to coordinate the same. And therefore one child ends up being educated for free when the father is just boasting in a bar and drinking pilsner, because he is politically connected and he was able to get the bursary. So you need to go back and agree and talk to your colleagues. Do we really need to give this bursary? Why don't you make sure that in all your primary schools, the child who is 3 years has been taken away from the mother and is talking Kigongo like the one of 7-year-old. Anaongea Kizungu kama ya 7-year-old. You know? And they also have a proper ablution block dedicated to only early childhood. I am just trying to imagine my 3-year-old children using the same ablution block with my boys of 14 years. Are you getting this picture? Yes. You know? Because one of the most scary things is when a child of 3 years who was very good at, lavatory in their home goes to a school and the whole day is just peeing on himself because he doesn't want to go to that toilet. It is very traumatizing. At the end of the day, they may not want to go back to the school. That's even if we have very good learning materials. So we have to make a deliberate move and say, let's just take an audit of all the ablution blocks, all the facilities where children are supposed to use as, well, I don't have to give you details. And make sure, head teacher, that we build an ablution block specifically for PP1, PP2, and even the baby class. Because those who are more or less the same age. We make them friendly. We make sure they have water for cleaning hands. And then you make sure you as a teacher, you instill the protocols and the discipline that ensures that the big boys and girls don't go to those areas. Will you do that, Walim? Yes. Yeah, if you do that for us, we are ready. We are ready to have a conversation with our experts and ensure that each of the 454 schools has that very good environment that they can be able to learn. So that when you plant a seed in fertile environment, they will grow faster, become better than when we just broadcast them. Because some of them will fall on the... Mr. Edi is the one who usually has the parables of the Bible. I know the one, the some that fell on the rock, others on the thorns, and others on the fertile ground. We have to purpose ours to fall on the fertile ground. The THC director representative who is here, we had a conversation in the morning, and I want to thank you once again, and even their teachers were here. In 2017, when we assumed office, because that was my first time to be governor, devolution was only 5 years old. Government running education was a new thing. We found two dysfunctional levels of government even in education. Because the ECD was being taken care of the county government under the governor. Class 1 to university was the national government. So those were two different systems. The teachers who were employed, most of them had been employed politically because they are supporters of the government. And therefore they could not answer to the head teacher because the payroll for the head teacher is in TSC Nairobi. The one for the ECD teacher is where? Whoever pays the piper calls for. So we found schools where the teachers report to county government of ECD and the head teacher could not tell them anything because they have no role to supervise them. Was that the case? And therefore, we would find schools where the teacher who walked out, wrote things on the blackboard for the ECD and went to tender to their farm. Because the county government does not have a system of supervising those teachers. We sat down with the county director of education, with the education fraternity, with their teachers, and we agreed that all our ECD teachers answer to the head teacher of that school. And I want to believe that is the case. If it isn't, then I'm giving directive today as the governor of Tharaka, with the executive powers that have been delegated to me by the voters of Tharaka, that all the ECD teachers of Tharaka only answers to one power, one center of power, who is the head teacher of the school. That one, I will not get claps for that. I will not get any smile. But we cannot have all that investment I'm telling you about and we pretend to supervise you from Tharaka because we don't have the system. Let us use the system of the county director of education because he or she has a system that works. Let us work together. Because you, the head teacher, when you allow my ECD teacher to mishandle the 3-year-old, the 4-year-old, and the 5-year-old, where will they end up? Do they go to a different school in PP1 and PP2? What about class 1? Class 2? So if you allow them to be made into data heads because you are not supervising, you will end up with them. And that is why you have taken it as a responsibility and stand your ground. I love what the head teacher, Bonamuredi, said when he was here. That the children who are 3-year-old now even know where the office of the head teacher is and they don't head teacher. What do you think they didn't know you before? Did you ask yourself where they did not know you? They didn't know you because those are two different schools. But now we want one school. And it also means that respect is two-way. Don't treat my ECD caregivers and teachers as if they're not teachers. Most of them have diplomas. Most of them are more learned than your class 1 than your B1 teachers. But it's not in bad taste, but it's the truth. TSC. Have you heard them when they were speaking here? Yeah? And my friend from Kitui said he's not sure whether those were... Yeah? So give them respect, because some of them think that because they are teaching ECD, they're not learned. Most of them are diplomas. I even have degrees who
taking care of our children. You must give them respect. They are there because they're doing a noble job and they are answering to their calling. So let us support them. It is important when I'm in this forum to recognize the efforts that have been made to document this. In the county government in Kenya, we have a virtual center where we share very unique experiences. It is called the Marifa Center. It is not a room, it is virtual. We just log in and check the ideas that every county has done. The county government of Tharaka is in Marifa Center for several innovations, including in health, including in roads. In road department, we have one called road marshals. But the first one to get us to Marifa Center was a crash. Therefore, it is well documented and counties come to benchmark. I remember when Governor Mutua of Machakos was a governor, they came all the way to Chuka to benchmark on that market to be able to see. So it is documented, it is working, and other counties are copying, and you should be proud of it because you are doing a very good job. If it's in Marifa Center, if we succeed, Professor Nwere, it will be very easy to sell this to other counties because they already know about the crash. They just now need to know about the randomized, the RCT and how it worked and the results. So they take it up. And when it's working the whole of Kenya, we are all happy. We say, if your neighbor is doing well, you are better off than how you were before, if you didn't have a neighbor who was doing very well. Before I bring this to a close, what is the way forward? One, we have no choice, and it will be a sin to let go of the 60 teachers. We listen to how well equipped they are with knowledge at the end of this year, which is coming in October. Therefore means the MCAs, when we are doing the budget for the next financial year, which starts in July, we will be having a new cohort of teachers to absorb. Not just the 60 of them. I can't imagine losing that gentleman who, what is his name? Is he called Brian? If you listen to them, you'll know that we need them because the supervision is there and all the other colors. So that, because the idea is, which is my second point, is that we must retrain and roll out this program of the 3-year-old attending school to all the 454 ECD centers. This one, we don't need permission from anybody in this country because we have the law. Yes. We have the data to back us up. Yes. How did you arrive at this? It is working. Yes. And therefore, we would like our sponsors, when they come back after several years, to see the impact of what it has done in rolling out in the whole house. The only thing I say is that we cannot roll it out without a good plan. We must make sure we fine-tune in the next few months. And I've told you some of the red flags to look out for is having schools that have very bad infrastructure that will discourage children from going to school. If the school is worse than my home in terms of some facilities, 3-year-old will not go there. Yeah? There is no mother who wants to take a child to a school where every time they are handling waterborne disease or diseases that are born out of an hygienic environment. So we need to work on that. That costs money, Bwana. So even as you tell me about roads, remember we need ablution blocks for the ECD. And by the way, that is your department. I expect the 5 of you, I expect you to be the people to defend that budget in the assembly because you know what we need it for. Well, the people of roads are talking about roads. Tell them we need infrastructure in our schools because we have to roll out the program. You've done a wonderful job, and I want to promise that we will continue supporting you until we do not bow out of this program. Because when you're bowing, when you're bowing, you put your head down, isn't it? We want to walk out of here with our heads up. And every county in Kenya, all the roads will be heading to Tharaka to come and find out what is this RCT program is changing the landscape of education in Tharaka. Because I want to tell you, if we are bright 3-year-olds and we have mothers and fathers who are empowered during that time, the standard of education in this country will improve. We will no longer be talking about Tharaka being in this bottom or middle numbers when we are ranking counties in education. With those few remarks, I want to say once again, thank you very much. May God bless you, and we meet again.